Before we started, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. She also has two dogs. Jyoti also has two dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nighttime here, so my dogs don't bark because nobody's going to come. But anybody who comes to the door, they go crazy barking. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's chaos at my house. But yeah, I think it says on my IMDb the age of 16. I didn't write that. I honestly don't know who did, but that was when I first started kind of loving movies and getting into, wondering how they were made. And I didn't make anything until I was 2021 when I started film school. But I kind of had a curiosity for it as a teenager, and as I started college. But yeah.
So what sparked your interest? What was the initial thing like that you remember was sparked your interest? Like, oh, I want to start making movies, or oh, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Maybe I can help. What and how did it start?
Yeah, it's I think, I was like any kid. I loved video games, and I played a lot of video games, and I was fascinated by like how did they write the stories, and how did they, narrative-based games that told really neat stories. And so I was really into that as like, I don't know, a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid. And then movies started to kind of captivate me even more. I saw a couple movies, and a lot of people don't like these movies, but for me, they were the spark. One is The Departed by Martin Scorsese, and then another one was Layer Cake by Matthew Vaughn. One of my best friends, he's a few years older than me. He exposed me to those two movies in the same summer when I was 16. I had to kind of sneak in to see The Departed. I wasn't 17; it was rated R, but I saw it in theaters, and I was like, man, like they're so entertaining, but they're also smart, and they're interesting. And so those movies specifically, and I'll also, I say video games just because I grew up enjoying stories that were interactive in that way. And then once I started film school a few years later, I was 20 years old, and I started kind of diving into different directors, some foreign stuff. You start to realize, like, outside of Scorsese and James Cameron and like the big American directors, there's all this amazing stuff from other places that you kind of have to expose yourself to. And I've learned so much from watching films from all over the place. And now my tastes have changed. I watch some, weird stuff, slow-paced dramas like Soul Bones and Peach Cobbler and Four Pies kind of are like that, But yeah.
So you went to film school. Which film school did you go to? So you went for the film program.
Yes, yeah. It was a school called the Art Institute of Charlotte.
Okay.
So it was. I think there were like 40 or so locations of the Art Institute. It was kind of like a brand, and then they had a Charlotte location, and I went there for about 3.5 years. It was a filmmaking degree that was everything. You learned. I went in with the focus on screenwriting because I had been in college for technical writing the year before at UNC Charlotte, and I knew that was something that I might be able to be okay at and focus on. And then, I'm writing short scripts for projects, and it comes time to make it, and it's like, well, I guess I'm going to direct it. That seems fun. So it was writing and directing. And then in the few years outside of since I graduated, it's been a lot more shooting and editing too. Has kind of been the way to make a living doing it. But yeah, it's Art Institute of Charlotte, and that's where I met a lot of amazing people that I still talk to and work with on all my stuff. So I got really lucky.
And also, you won hundreds of awards, right? Like it says, I mean, you won a lot of awards for your films so far.
Yeah,
you've done a lot of films.
Yeah, the total hit 100 recently, because we've been able to kind of put out, like 3 shorts a year. And this year I just finished, I'm working today finishing the 3rd one that we've done so far this year. So maybe there will be more before the end of the year. But with that amazing group of people that I've met through my school and around the Charlotte area, we've been able to crew and cast things and put out a few a year. We hit it's a little over 100 total awards, and that could be a screenwriting or directing award, but that's acting as well, and that's stuff that I can't take credit for.
Yeah, but still, it's always a team effort, and that's what I
Yeah.
believe. So I watched, first film that I watched was Four Pies, and I kind of felt like I knew the person, one of the people. And then I saw the name, it's Lee Armstrong, and I have met him, and actually Gauri's met him
Yes.
in Eastern North Carolina Film Festival when we went for the screening for our film there.
Yeah.
And he was there, so we actually knew him. We actually met him there and talked to him. So it's kind of interesting to see him in that film. That was the Four Pies. 4 films that we saw, right? Are the 4 films screening in the film festival?
The 4 films that are, I know this is probably looking this way, the Soul Bones, this the other way around, Peach Cobbler, Armor, and Four Pies. These are the 4 ones that I'm planning to on August 22nd. August 22nd. So, Jyoti, you asked a question, then I have a question on Soul Bones. Is that one you planning to
I was going to go down the list of what I watched. So
okay.
Four Pies, I thought was very interesting. It's basically about a family and the pies, and it's a very interesting concept watching it. And of course, at that film kind of made me a little teary. It's kind of emotional. Yeah. I don't know why it touches me that much, but it does. And I think the underlying messages, each film of yours that I watched, that one was one, the Peach Cobbler, the Armor. The Peach Cobbler, and they felt familiar. They were, again, it's based on a pie and a cobbler and what is this. But there's also a message in kids, family. There's a lot of message which I noticed, underlying message of kids and innocence. That the one that was and the kids and how innocent it is and how it can change a person. There was a revelation film where the person actually feels like he changes. That was the most difficult film for me because I did not understand it as well. The one with the armor, I think the one with the armor where the kid comes and of course I don't want to give away the story. I felt like that one was kind of, but then I understood that maybe it was the guy changes, the adult changes because the kid comes, the innocence of the kid makes him change from what he believed in. I don't know if that's
Soul Bones. That's Soul Bones. That's Soul Bones.
Soul Bones. Soul Bones, yeah.
Armor is the Soul Bones. Yeah, I've also questions on Soul Bones.
Well, Armor, what I liked about Armor was the whole, like, how we are a speck of things. It was done very well. The trees and the things. When I was watching it from above first time, I'm like, oh, what's that white thing in the middle? And there was all trees. And then you kind of go in the camera and you show the person. So it kind of made me think of, we are such minute people in the whole realm of things. It kind of made me feel that way. That feeling came in the thing. So I really liked that concept actually also. But whereas the Soul Bones and Armor kind of made me also think about what's happening in today's world.
Yes.
So these were my thoughts. Yeah. These were my thoughts as I watched your films, and I watched all of them together today actually. So this is what happened to me. But Gauri, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, my question is, sorry, is Soul Bones based on true events? Because you mentioned Mississippi 1985. So is this story based on real events or something similar?
So it's not based on anything that actually happened that I know of. It's I love doing period pieces. I started out making a lot of Civil War films, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Anyway, I was interested in that Mississippi 1980s. It's only 30 years ago, but it was like, and it still is in the Deep South, the racism is like rampant, and it's like actual clan gatherings, and it's crazy. This stuff still happens in North Carolina actually too, but especially go back 30 years in the 80s which was only about 20 years removed from when they were still lynching African American people, and they were segregated, and it so I wanted to dive into that particular decade to set that story, and that, you know, that narrative being, I guess, kind of an anti-hero. Like, he's the Zach Ball, the actor who plays Baker, the lead character. My main thing with that film was that the innocence, like you mentioned, of the little boy. He's innocent. He just sees Zach as his neighbor, his white neighbor, as maybe he can make some money and work for him. He ends up coming back and saying, I don't even want to get paid. He wants a friend.
Right.
And his kindness and his innocence changes Baker, that awful character. He's awful. I mean, we find out, you know, he really is. But just that little bit of the little boy, Harrison, and his mother too, she's very kind. The actress that played her was just so perfect. Miracle Carroll. I cast her, I told her, you're just so kind. That's all we need for this. And anyway, her and Lucian, the young actor, I think, you know, helped me on that project a lot to convey, like, they're just, their presence and their kindness towards him is enough to sway him a little bit from his crazy deep south, you know, what he's embedded in. And yeah, anyway, sorry.
I do like the fact that the way you showed the cans and the mask, you know, it's portrayed in a very delicate way, in the sense how it's delicate, because you're not saying, okay, this is it. You're not throwing it at people's face, but you're doing it very, like, in a nice way.
Subtle
so
way.
It doesn't look, it was done very well in that sense.
Well, thank you. That I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's tough because I told a good friend of mine who runs a festival in Charlotte here, and she screened it at one of their events, and I said, I don't know if I'm allowed to tell this story. I mean, I'm a white guy. I don't know, like, but I just wanted to, because this stuff, like we talked about, still happens. In the 80s, it was really happening, and it was only about 20 years removed from murder. And now we're only 50 years, 60 years removed from that crazy lynching and murdering African Americans. And then now we come back to present days, and it's been like 2 months since George Floyd. So it's just, it's a lot, you know, but.
Yeah, it is. That's what I thought, what's happening in today's world. It kind of, see, both things. This film kind of reminded me of that, and the Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. And then the second film reminded me of, Armor reminded me of what's happening in the world, COVID-wise. You know, because if you think about it, it's all nature, it's the disaster, it's what's causing, you know, it's basically saying we have destroyed nature, and that's the reason that every few years we had Spanish flu when you stepped out. So it kind of made you realize what we do to nature is coming back to us, and now we are sitting at home and all the animals are running in the nature free. So it kind of felt to me that way, that how things can change, you know, with the whole concept of how minute we are. It takes 1 second to, you know, something wrong to go happen, or contract a virus, and you're gone. So that film kind of, I don't know, it gave me that message, maybe because there's so much around that nowadays we're talking about. So maybe that's why, but that's what I got out of it.
So in today's environment with this Black Lives Matter, react to the film, and what do you think, or what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, it's we made it about 1.5 years ago, and we've been showing it, and I was very nervous when we started to. I wasn't sure exactly what people would think, but I've watched it at festivals with African Americans, and they've said really nice things to me about it afterwards, and that they've kind of understood what, like how I was describing that the whole film, most of it is